Hi, this is The Great Expanse. This is pretty exciting. This is my first video with some spicy brand new stuff. The plan is to make a fast-paced boss rush game. I always find bosses to be the most fun and engaging part of any game, so I figured let's make it the only part of this game. I'm intending to make the bosses pretty challenging, and hopefully there'll be 3 to 4 of them. I'm a big fan of Terraria and its bosses, so this might end up being a little inspired by that. So to start, I'm working on the audio system, which I never ended up using because I always play games with volume off anyway, so I don't actually know why I did it. Good start. So to start, I'm working on the player movement. I'm gonna do something kind of unique here, I hope. You see, the player will have a dash that they can use to dodge attacks. Almost gotcha there. No, I think every single indie game ever made has a dash incorporated into its moveset, and we're not that basic here.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a fun mechanic and I do like it, but it's quite overused.
Instead, the plan is to have the player stuck on the ground like a loser, but have a certain amount of flying time that recharges over time. And I figure we can modify that flying time based on some other factors, such as damage taken. We'll see. So I'm starting with an input manager and then into the actual player actions relating to the inputs. Okay, apparently Unity doesn't expose interfaces in the inspector. Guess I'm switching to an abstract class, which is basically the same thing and is actually probably better anyway. Actually, it doesn't even matter at all because I wouldn't be setting this in the inspector in the future anyway. Okay then. Wow, look at that. It's moving, and in the way I want, no less. Then I decided, that's pretty much the whole game done, and started working on the least important aspect, the character animation. The character is this little blob thing in a helmet. I don't know, I just like it. I figured these will be different health states, and as you take damage you lose the helmet, but you can move faster. I've never actually animated a sprite like this before though. I'm vaguely aware that Unity has a built-in animator which handles sprite sheets pretty well, but I've never used it. After looking at this rad tutorial, it didn't help at all, and I floundered around a while before making it work. Okay, sorta bad. There's this weird delay and the timings are off. I kinda don't like this animation system. I'm sorta tempted to just make my own animation system, but simplified, but not today. Now let's add a tilt when it moves. Nope, very wrong. That's more like it. That's pretty good for now. Then I added a bar to show flight time, and I added a simple pause screen as well. On a side note, I was noticing that the player sprite was kinda choppy, and apparently turning on interpolation on the rigid body smooths it out. The reason I bring this up is that I had the same issue on a game I made without a game engine, and even though I don't know what interpolation actually does, I wish I had the name to the solution to my problem so I could have researched it and applied it in the game. A little annoying a year later. Anyway, now terrain. I whipped up some simple sprites to use. I guess I'm going with a cave aesthetic because I have 0 new ideas. And putting it in the game, it is pretty much all gray right now. I have nothing else to say. Then I went down the rabbit hole of slope terrain and was going to use the sprite shape library. But because I didn't want anything too complicated and it might have looked weird with pixel art, I hacked together my own solution. I just used a triangle-shaped polygon collider and then used a triangle sprite mask to crop the terrain sprite inside the collider. Then I could scale the segment to be whatever size I wanted, and a script placed on the segment would fix the scaling issues of the child sprites. And then, because I was already into it, I did something similar with the regular terrain so I could, oh yeah, save time. Actually, I don't know if that was easier. And later in the project, I added a way to switch between the full sprite and the sprite with a rough edge, so I could tile different terrain pieces together easier, which wasn't something I had thought about when first making it, so I figured I'd mention it. Okay, here we are. Just made a basic tutorial area. Haven't made the attacking mechanic yet. I actually have no idea what it's going to be. Okay, well, I guess it shoots a laser now. I'm mostly focusing on the movement, so the attack doesn't really matter. I want the player to focus on movement and dodging anyway. And now, this brings me into the collision and object interactions. Making some things collide in some ways with some things, and in different ways with others, always splits my brain. I haven't really made a set procedure for myself yet, so I always dread it. But in the end, I think I got what I wanted. Also, I started noticing an issue where the player randomly moves too slow, as if a higher drag is being applied. I later realized that this was because I made the classic blunder of not multiplying my force by time.delta time. I spent a while trying to figure out what was going on, too. Oops. So, after doing that, I worked on the next thing that doesn't matter, the splash screen. Spent 10 minutes on it, and it's good enough. I just added some buttons to go to the further levels because I'm not adding a save system. I guess it's good to get this done now so I can navigate to the different levels easier. I also don't have a name for the game yet because I'm terrible at naming things. Just ask my dog, who still doesn't have a name. So if you have any suggestions, let me hear them in the comments. So now we can actually get started on the main part of the game, the bosses. Because I have no originality, the first boss is going to be a robot mech boss.
And not gonna lie, I really like how the sprites for this boss turned out. I think I did a pretty good job with it, even though it's fairly simple.
Then I just put the sprites together as a prefab and got working on the boss's AI. Since I'm dreading actually working on the movement, we're going to start with the laser cannon attack first. That is always missing. Why? Okay. I was using the transform of the main body instead of the cannon as the starting point. So, right now, the cannon tracks the player at a speed I can set and shoots the projectile. Also, the main body bobs up and down now, and the legs can keep the main body level on uneven ground, which was a surprisingly easy system to put together. Okay, now, for even more originality, the boss is going to fire rockets at the player. Whoa, I know, calm down, don't be too amazed yet. I'll accept my Game of the Year award when I finish. Actually though, this was really easy, because I had already created the functionality of the rocket following the player in another game, so I just ported it over and it took like 5 minutes to implement. So, +1 to code reuse. Because the boss felt a little small, I added a field on the boss's properties for scaling, so I can increase the size of the boss freely, and everything, including the rockets and lasers, will scale up as well. Which now allows me to set the scale really high and just see the boss take up the entire room and become nearly impossible to fight. I'm not doing that in the actual game, I'm just setting the scale to 1.5 times larger. When I tried making the boss jump around, to my surprise it seemed to somewhat work. Then some wonky stuff started happening, which I'm assuming is due to it hitting the platform on the way down. After some fixes, and making it unable to jump to the same spot, and adding a booster animation, I think it looks pretty good. It's not perfect, but it doesn't really matter that much. We have more boss fights to work on, so I don't want to spend forever on it. So, next up on the originality train is a sweeping laser attack. I'm sure you get the gist of what it does. Every once in a while, the boss will stop firing lasers and send out a sweeping laser attack. It's going to have a predictive sweep, so it will send out the laser in the direction the player is moving to make it a little more difficult. Believe you me, it didn't work a bunch of times, but I'll save you the headache and cut to the end where it is working. This was actually super annoying to debug because I had like 4 things going wrong at the same time, but as you can see, it's all been worked out. So this is the finished fight. It's definitely challenging, but I think it's pretty fun. It's not for the faint of heart, though. I probably should add sound effects, but I, had a bad experience with sound effects as a child, so I don't want to. I'll let you enjoy the pristine silence of this fight for a little bit, though.
Wow, I'm great at making YouTube videos.
And when you beat it, this portal gets created, which takes you to the next boss, which will be created in the next video. Sorry, but I'm really slow at making videos, and I want to get something out now. This game will be finished and uploaded on my itch page by the next video, though, so that's something. And again, if you have a good idea for what this game should be called, let me know. Now that this video is over, I can get on with my shameless self-promotion. My game Cavern Clinger is free to download in both the iOS App Store and the Google Play Store, so it would mean a lot to me if you checked it out. I think it's cool. If you want to kind of, but not really, see how I made it, I have a video up about it. That's everything. Stay tuned for the next one. See you next time. Bye-bye.